What do you drink in karate class? Wata! Why do people watch these? So hi everyone, it is March 31st, which means another month of reading has gone by, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books to talk about with you. I was busy for 2 whole weeks this month. I had a German exchange student, and I literally did not have any time whatsoever to read, because on top of that, I was also feeling pretty anxious that 2 weeks, so I wasn't really in the mood to read, but I think 8 Things is awesome. Let's just hop right on into it. The first book I read this month was How Not to Hit Yourself in the Face with a Book. How Not to Fall in Love by Lisa Brown Roberts. This is a contemporary book about a girl named Darcy whose father disappears mysteriously, and because of that, her rich family starts to lose money and she gets made fun of. So she goes and finds solace in her uncle's thrift shop. She meets a boy there, she gets a job, and she's basically just working out how to manage with less money now, combined with a mystery of where her father went. I thought this was a pretty okay contemporary. I have a review up for this if you want to go see my full thoughts, but I did think it was pretty cutesy. I had a couple of problems with the cheesy writing, a couple of character problems, but overall it was a pretty solid book, and the mystery had me on my toes. The characters were relatable, but the writing of this book really brought it down for me. I gave this 3.5 stars. The second book I read this month was Sea of Shadows by Kelly Armstrong. This is a fantasy book about 2 twins that are a keeper and a seeker of a fantasy town. They live right on the edge of a forbidden forest where all the criminals are put, and inevitably they die there and their spirits are stuck there, so they're the people that kind of keep the spirits at bay, and they manage the spiritual side of the community. One day the spirits decide that they want to kind of fight back, I suppose you could phrase it, but it's a lot of drama, a lot of death, and it's actually really, really interesting. My main complaint about this is that we don't have a map in it, and I really just wanted a map because they do a bit of traveling. I just said doo-doo. Otherwise, I just don't think we were given enough information about the spirits. I didn't really understand parts of it, but I absolutely loved this world and I loved the characters. The sequel for this comes out soon, if it's not already out, so this is something you should definitely pick up if you're into darker fantasies, especially dealing with spirits and paranormal. I gave this 4 stars. Next book I read was oh, that was awkward. The next book I read was Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. This is a very, very awesome book. It's a retelling, sort of, about Wizard of Oz, and by retelling I mean it's nothing like a retelling. It basically is Dorothy has come back to Oz after the entire Wizard of the Oz story has gone on, and now she's kind of ruling over Oz, and she's power hungry, and our main character Amy gets thrust into the Oz world, and she and a group of wicked people have to figure out how to take Dorothy down, because Dorothy must die, and I think it is so cool. I loved it. I loved the writing of this book. It is just great. I took off 1/2 star because I felt like the characters were a little bit normal. I mean, they didn't bring anything new. They were strong and they were awesome, but there was nothing unique about them, which is why I just thought they were a little bit flat. I loved this book. I'm definitely going to be checking out the sequel, and I gave this 4.5 stars. The next book I read I got on Kindle, oopsies, cancel, and that is Losing It by Cora Carmack. This is a new adult book that is following a girl named Bliss, and she basically is a senior in college and she wants to lose her virginity. So she goes out to a bar and brings a guy home, gets all ready, and then chickens out. The next day she wakes up, goes to class, and finds out that her theater professor is the same guy. So it's very angsty, there's a lot of drama. It was fast and light, but the writing was so cheesy. The characters weren't anything special. It's kind of, I just want to say, it's like a typical new adult. I've only read a couple of new adult things, and they all pretty much seem the same to me. I'm still waiting for new adults to blow me off my feet, but I've not read Colleen Hoover yet, so that might change the game. Either way, I just didn't think it was anything special. It wasn't very romance heavy, which I think in the end I was a little bit thankful for. Bliss kind of annoyed me with some of the decisions she made. It was funny sometimes because it's of theater characters that are in theater, so it was very laughable at a few moments, but in the end it just wasn't dramatic, didn't wow me, wasn't anything special. I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book I read was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This book follows Georgie, who is a mother of 2, and over the holidays they had planned to go out to her husband's mom's place. Georgie works as a writer at a TV company, and her work kind of holds her there, and so Neil leaves without her. They've been having drama for a long time. Neil is angry at her, so he will not answer her calls. He's being super sketchy, and Georgie's worried. It's stressing her out, as you probably should be if that happens to you. Georgie finds a telephone at her mom's house that she had as a teenager, finds out that she can contact Neil through there, except it's not the Neil she knows. It's kind of like a time travel-y phone, so she's talking to Neil in the past. So my thoughts about this book. I thought that Neil was kind of a jerk character. I did not like him whatsoever, so sometimes when Georgie was like, I have to talk to him, oh I love him so much, and she was just kind of clinging to him, I completely understand that, like he's her husband, but in another way I couldn't really connect with why she was still pursuing him after he's being so ignorant toward her. So Neil is not the type of guy that I would like, so I just couldn't empathize with her on that level. But like always, it's Rainbow Rowell. The writing and the character development is just fantastic. The ending of this book was a little bit abrupt and anticlimactic, but otherwise I thought, again, it was just a beautiful story, even if I couldn't connect to it sometimes. I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book that I read was White Hot Kiss by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This book follows a girl named Layla. She lives in a world where there are gargoyles and there are demons. Gargoyles are the creatures that kind of fight the demons and keep them at bay, and demons are obviously bad, they're from hell, no one likes them. Layla is half demon, half gargoyle, so she lives with all the gargoyle peoples that are called wardens, and people there kind of don't really like her because she's half, and the demons don't really mess with her because she's half. One day she meets a demon who's trying to convince her that she needs to stop working with the wardens because they're not what they say they are, and so it's kind of a conflict between warden versus demon and discovering herself and fighting demons along the way. I picked this up completely expecting a typical Jennifer L. Armentrout read. Very corny writing, very light plot, just fun, fast, but I had several problems with it. But my huge problem with this, the main character, not main character, but the demon love interest named Roth, I could not stand. He was just very cocky. He came off so strongly, like flirtingly. It wasn't even borderline sexual harassment, it was sexual harassment. There was no consent anytime he did anything to or with her. There was slut shaming in it, and Roth was just very irritating because he was so physically getting close to her, and it rubbed me completely the wrong way. I didn't like it whatsoever. It was very creepy at times when he would just touch her and she'd say, "Stop touching me," and he wouldn't. I was so frustrated that even after all that she was still attracted to him, but again, I read this just because I thought it would be light. I loved all the other characters, including Layla, so I don't know whether I'm gonna read the sequel or not. I doubt it. Maybe one day. Otherwise, was not the hugest fan, but it's what I was expecting. I'm sure if I went into this expecting a quality book, I would have hated it a lot more, but it is what it is. I only gave White Hot Kiss 3 stars. The next book I read was Watch the Sky by Kirsten Hubbard. This is an advanced copy for a book that comes out April 7th, so this is going to be out very soon, and I'm sure my review for this is going to be up within a few days of this video, if not already up. This book follows a boy named Jory who lives with his mom, his adopted sister, his brother, and his stepfather, who is concerned constantly of this huge happenstance, and everything his stepfather does or says is preparing for this thing that's coming, and his whole life he's grown up with the stepfather and mother who are just convinced that there's something coming, something they need to prepare for. So it's about the sheltered little kid who is kind of learning about the world and himself the first time he goes to public school. This is a middle grade, so I thought it was a very beautiful coming of age story. I touched a lot on how I liked it in my review, which I will link when it is up. But I thought this had a very, very nice moral. I thought the writing was pretty, and overall I gave this 4 stars. And the last book I read this month is A Million Suns by Beth Revis. This is probably the oldest book I have on my shelf. I bought this book in 2012 and just now read it. This book is the second book in a trilogy. The first one is Across the Universe, and it follows a girl named Amy who is being frozen to be put on a ship to a different planet, and she will be unfrozen in 300 years and she'll live out the rest of her life there. Things go wrong and she ends up getting unfrozen at 250 years, and she wakes up on this spaceship full of people she doesn't know. Mysteries about the ship surface as she and the ship's co-pilot Elder start to become friends, and this book is just a continuation of the first one. I cannot say anything about it without giving it away. Very glare, I'm sorry, but this has a very nice cover. And I think this was an awesome continuation. I love this series because I think the whole spaceship setting is very, very cool. I do love Amy and I love Elder. I just missed this world, and I'm so glad that I got back to it, and I liked this book a lot. I think the conflict is really realistic, and overall, just a nice series. I gave this book 4.5 stars. And that concludes all that I read in the month of March. I'd like to know what you read, so go ahead and leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you in my TBR. Goodbye!